It's 6:30 in the evening on January 26, 2011. A blizzard is blanketing Philadelphia. You're listening to a 911 call. A man's voice, controlled, calm in a way that seems wrong for what he's describing. I just walked into my apartment. My fiancé's on the floor with blood everywhere. The operator asks questions. The man answers. More than 2 minutes pass. And then, only then, he mentions something that should have been the first words out of his mouth. There's a knife sticking out of her chest. Ellen Greenberg is 27 years old. She is a first-grade teacher at Penn Alexander School. She and Sam have been together for years. They are engaged. She has a ring on her finger and a future mapped out. She also has 20 stab wounds. 10 of them are to the back of her neck. Ellen Ray Greenberg was born on June 23, 1983, to Joshua and Sandra Greenberg of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. She graduated from Penn State University with a degree in communications and found her calling in a first-grade classroom. She was a yoga enthusiast. She loved her students. She suffered from anxiety, a condition shared by more than 40 million Americans, and was managing it. She was not, by any account from people who knew her, suicidal. On the afternoon of January 26, 2011, a blizzard prompted the closure of Philadelphia schools. Ellen left work early and returned to the apartment she shared with Sam Goldberg in the Manayunk neighborhood. That afternoon she texted friends. She made plans. She was looking forward to things. At 6:30 p.m. Sam Goldberg called 911. When Philadelphia police arrived at the apartment they found Ellen Greenberg slumped against the kitchen cabinets, a 10-inch knife embedded in her chest. The door to the apartment had been secured with a swing latch from the inside, which Sam said he had broken down to gain entry. There were no signs of forced entry at the deadbolt. There were no signs of an intruder. Ellen had no defensive wounds. Based on these observations, the investigators treated the scene as a suicide. They released it without calling in the crime scene unit. By the time investigators returned, the apartment had been professionally cleaned. The next morning, Assistant Philadelphia Medical Examiner Dr. Marlon Osborne performed the autopsy. What he found was not consistent with what the police had told him to expect. 20 stab wounds, 10 to the back of her neck, 11 bruises in various stages of healing on her right arm, abdomen, and right leg, bruises that were not fresh, that had been accumulating over days or weeks. A knife blade 12.5 centimeters long embedded in her chest. Blood in both chest cavities. And one wound, a stab to the back of Ellen's neck, that a neuropathologist would later testify appeared to have been inflicted after Ellen was already dead. Dr. Osborne ruled the death a homicide. He wrote that Ellen had been stabbed by another person. The Philadelphia Police Department publicly disputed the medical examiner's findings. They arranged a face-to-face meeting, described by those present as unusual, between Dr. Osborne, his supervisor Dr. Sam Gulino, detectives, and a representative from the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office. Gulino later testified that such a meeting was unusual. Neither pathologist could remember another like it. After that meeting, Dr. Osborne changed his ruling from homicide to suicide. Let the truth set us free. Over the following years, as Ellen's parents fought through the courts for answers, additional details emerged that the original investigation had not addressed. A witness, whose account has been referenced in court proceedings but whose full statement has not been made public, may have observed Sam Goldberg entering the apartment before he placed the 911 call. If accurate, that contradicts Sam's account of the timeline entirely. Photographs of the door that Sam said he broke down to gain entry showed damage consistent with the swing latch, but questions were raised about whether the damage to the door jamb was consistent with the force required to break it, and whether there was evidence at the deadbolt consistent with an outside break-in. Ellen's body position when police arrived, slumped against the kitchen cabinets, legs splayed, head and shoulders propped against the corner, was described by the initial responders as the position in which she was found. But subsequent investigation raised questions about whether her body had been moved before police arrived. Sam Goldberg's uncle is James Schwartzman, a prominent Pennsylvania judge. He was allowed to enter the apartment before detectives arrived. The significance of that access has never been formally addressed. Sam Goldberg has never been charged with any crime. He has not publicly commented on the case in years. In February 2025, 14 years after Ellen's death, Dr. Marlon Osborne signed a document stating that he no longer believes Ellen Greenberg killed herself. He wrote that the case should be ruled something other than suicide. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court has agreed to hear the case. The Chester County District Attorney's Office investigated and in November 2024 concluded there was insufficient evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that a crime was committed, placing the investigation in an active status. The Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office subsequently issued a new 32-page report reaffirming the suicide ruling, which the Greenberg family's attorney called a deeply flawed attempt to justify a predetermined conclusion. Her death is officially ruled as suicide. The Ellen Greenberg case presents the most institutionally complex behavioral puzzle we've covered on this channel, because the behavior that most demands analysis is not Ellen's, but the behavior of every institution that touched this case after her death. Begin with the 911 call. Behavioral analysts and law enforcement professionals have studied thousands of 911 calls from people who have discovered the bodies of loved ones. The consistent finding: genuine discovery calls are characterized by disorganization, emotional dysregulation, and immediate disclosure of the most alarming detail. The caller who discovers a loved one with a knife in their chest leads with the knife. Sam Goldberg's call was controlled, organized, and the knife was not mentioned for more than 2 minutes. That behavioral pattern, the delayed disclosure of the most alarming detail, is one of the most consistently documented red flags in 911 call analysis. The phrase, "I think she stabbed herself. She fell on a knife," is behaviorally extraordinary. "I think" implies uncertainty about an event the caller is supposedly discovering in real time. A person discovering an apparent suicide does not theorize about the mechanism, they report what they see. A person who already knows what happened constructs a theory that explains it. The institutional behavior that followed is where the behavioral analysis becomes most damning. The decision to treat a scene with 20 stab wounds as a suicide without calling in the crime scene unit represents what behavioral science calls premature closure at its most consequential. Once the scene was treated as a suicide, every subsequent decision, releasing the scene, allowing it to be professionally clean, challenging the medical examiner's homicide ruling, arranging the unprecedented meeting that reversed it, followed the internal logic of that initial decision rather than the logic of the evidence. The most behaviorally significant single fact in this case is the wound inflicted post-mortem. A neuropathologist for the Philadelphia Medical Examiner's Office testified in deposition that one of the stab wounds to Ellen's neck appeared to have been inflicted after she was dead. In a suicide, there is no mechanism for a post-mortem wound. The victim cannot stab themselves after they are dead. If that finding is accurate, and it has not been credibly refuted, the suicide ruling is not merely incorrect. It is impossible. I think the consensus initially was that it was very, very weird. Ellen Greenberg was 27 years old. She had 20 stab wounds. One of them was inflicted after she died. Her death is officially a suicide. Her parents are still fighting. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court is listening.